Hello, I am Lamisila Pamela Ngubane, and this is the Entity Dynamics podcast. Entity Dynamics is a culture development consultancy where we believe that culture creates behavior and behavior creates reality. So, this is an afterword to the video I made called A Culture of Breaking Generational Curses. So, the reason I'm making this afterward is because I was thinking to myself that, you know, the individual who is breaking these generational curses is someone who is going to face opposition constantly on the mission, right? So for me, it reminds me of Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. Okay, so you know, Frodo is told by Gandalf what he needs to do, and they take the ring to Rivendell, and then Elrond, the Elf King, calls a council of the ring, and they discuss what needs to be done with the ring, right? And all sorts of things are like options are given. Even one option is to give the ring to Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil, it doesn't feature in the movies, but he's a very important character. I don't know why they left him out. But anyway, and he represents the primordial forces which are going to come back into play. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, point is, one of the things that Elrond says is that the ring has to be destroyed. And then Gimli, the dwarf, takes his giant axe and tries to destroy the ring. He's like, let's just get it over with now, and then the ring basically repels him very strongly. And he's thrown on his back. And then in the movie, you see him get a flash of Sauron's eye. So anyway, there's a whole debate that goes on, and Frodo eventually stands up and says, I will take the ring, though I do not know the way. Okay. So for me, that's like the soul before birth agreeing to come to earth, to be someone who breaks these destructive cultural norms, these generational curses. Okay. So now, in order to be a generational curse breaker, you have to be born into a family with generational curses to break. Okay, so everyone obviously who's on that assignment here is going to be playing their own role in their own various ways. Some people are dealing with their family line specifically, some are dealing with their family and society at large, and some are dealing with just society. Okay, but nonetheless, you will face opposition because you're here to undermine the matrix, so to speak, right? You're here to undermine this philosophy, this consciousness that has hijacked this world, from being a place where souls can come to learn and then leave and be free and not be enslaved. It's now a place that's like, as one teacher, one of my spiritual teachers on YouTube says, a prison planet. You know what I'm saying? So we're here to bring it back to what it was supposed to be, to undermine the hijacking. Okay, so you're going to face opposition. But just like how Frodo has the Fellowship of the Ring, and he has Sam, who's basically the fellow in the Fellowship, which Fellowship is there to support Frodo on his journey, right? You will have your spiritual support team who are there with you in the world before this one, when you agree to be the ring bearer, right? And yeah, because you're going to need them. Just like Frodo needs Sam, he needs Gandalf, he needs Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, and that other dude whose name I can't remember because he's actually turns against Frodo. And that's what happens. Like within your own family, friend groups, you'll find people who will minimize your mission. Maybe they like how that guy, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he turns on Frodo, tries to take the ring for himself because he can see the power, and he also looks at Frodo like the small little hobbit, like what could he possibly have that I don't have, that gives him the power to wield this ring, but then he comes around at the end after he fights the orcs, comes to his senses, so even amongst your most trusted friends, you will find people who misunderstand you, who don't understand the quality of life that you have, you know. So you just need to be like, just know it's part of the mission. It's part of what you're here to do. That conflict. You'll look at other people and you'll think these other people, they've finally gotten to a place of peace in their lives. They finally chilled. They're making their money. They're living their lives. Their relationships are healed. They've healed. You can heal, you as the ring bearer, you who are here to break these destructive cultural norms. You can heal, but you will still be a person who attracts conflict, because your mission is to undermine the systems that a lot of people are benefiting from. Systems like patriarchy, systems like racism, systems like economic exploitation. In your own family, people will be like, why can't you just get with the program? Why can't you just be like everyone else? You'll have friends who, pretend to be your friends, but they're actually just, they like your vibe, maybe because, you are someone who also is a truth teller. You're someone who has a very healing quality to you, because you are so like married to the truth. You're married to the truth. So people know they can trust you. But unfortunately, often you can't trust a lot of people. You can't trust them to support you, to understand you. But you do have your spiritual support team. So it's very important that you are in contact with your spiritual support team. Okay. This is something which is difficult for us to also like draw the succor and comfort from, because they're invisible. They're not with you in the flesh. You can't take them with you when you go somewhere, to have them beside you in the flesh, so other people can see that you're not just by yourself, that you do have support, and that you're not just to be like undermined and messed with. But they are there, and you must cry to them. You must whine to them. It's like, when Frodo is in Khazad Dûm with Gandalf and the Fellowship, and he says, like, I wish I had never gotten the ring. I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish I had never left the Shire. I wish I had never agreed to this mission. And you'll get to points like that where you're like, what the hell? Why am I always attracting people who want to mess with me? Why do I attract people who appear to be friends but are enemies? Why am I such an anomaly to my own family, where I should be like getting the most comfort? Why is it that I find it so difficult? Why can't I fake it like everyone else? You know what I mean? Like, other people can fake it, they can fake it really well. And you're like, oh, I wish I could just be like everyone else. But you're not, and you're not going to be, and you can't be. So I was like whining to my spiritual support team a couple of days ago, because I realized something about my life experience and about certain people in my life that I thought had my back. But then when I look at it, I realized, no, I was being manipulated. It was just comfortable, you know? So it was such a disappointment, and I was like, and then I was like whining and crying and just being really like upset, with just life, and obviously I'm telling my spiritual support team, like, what the heck? Anyway, so they were like, just, you need to change your perspective. Okay. You need to change your perspective on these things. So I was like, oh, so fine. After that, just like very shortly after that, I got a video on YouTube, which helped me to change my perspective. And then I was back to being happy and aligned with my purpose again. So yeah, please do reach out to them. There's nothing about you that is irritating or inconvenient. They are your fellowship on this quest that you are on. Use them, and, believe that you do have a serious purpose and a role to play here, even though you seem to be surrounded by people who just don't get it, who don't want to get it, who openly oppose you, because they're gaining, unfortunately, from the system, but they will also benefit when you succeed. So don't stop, because what you're doing is for humanity and for the earth. Okay, bye.